On behalf of the Office of Veterans Affairs, I wish to welcome you to the Vietnam Memorial Plaque dedication ceremony. We are here today to honor the 13 servicemen who made the supreme sacrifice in the service of their country and the cause of freedom. We are grateful to those who have helped in organizing and conducting this program. These include the following: Danko for making these beautiful plaques, and especially Scott Hancock's the main creator of these plaques. I don't know if Scott's here today, is he? Well, I sure appreciate his efforts. And this wonderful creation right here. Also going along with Scott was Mike Paloma for the preparation of the best wood available. No question about it. Also, the Veterans Commissioners and Lisa Owens at the Office of Veterans Affairs. Extremely valuable aid in getting these projects done. And I could say the same thing for 2 years ago when we had the Korean War Memorial Plaque dedication. The supervisors of Appanoose County for their support and encouragement on this project. The VFW and the American Legion Post of Appanoose County. Lisa Eddy and the Historical Society. And maybe Lisa's here? She is. She is. Stand up, please. Lisa Eddy. Without Lisa's research, we wouldn't have had half of these pictures on here. So we're very grateful for that. Also for AeroQuick for doing an excellent job on the preparation of the programs, and also for the great job she did on Private First Class Gene McCoy's Purple Heart and Honorable Service Mention. He was one of the individuals we're honoring today. He was in the first cav, and that's up at the front case there as you come in. And we really appreciated the work on that too. Fairway and Hy-Vee for providing nourishments. How about the 224th Engineer Battalion, Iowa National Guard? Let's give them a hand. Also Pastor Johnston, KCOG, the Iowegian. Without the Iowegian, how would you know about anything going on? How about the CHS Band and Choir? The directors. CHS for the use of the auditorium, and Austin Nielsen, Austin Anderson, Brent Willard, and Max for the auditorium lighting team, the videotaping, and so forth. We really appreciate that. Before we honor the fallen, it is important to take notice of the veterans here today. If you've ever served in the Armed Forces of the United States, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service to your country. It is also important to remember the many from the National Guard and the reserves who were called to active duty some 50 years ago by President John F. Kennedy during the Berlin crisis of 1961 and the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 to deter communist aggression. I'm proud to say that my father was one of those from New Hampshire who was called up in 1962 to serve in North Carolina, and I think President Kennedy's actions certainly led to world peace and a resolution of the crisis. Moreover, it it is important to remember our POW, MIA from the Korean and the Vietnam Wars, and also from other wars. But in regard to the Korean and Vietnam Wars, to urge that we strongly request that Hanoi and Beijing come forth with the information regarding the fates of these servicemen that are still unaccounted for. That's why we have this flag right here, and also right here too, to remember them. They're always with us. Today, we especially extend gratitude to the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, and to our servicemen and women throughout the world defending our freedom. No conflict in American history has been more controversial than the Vietnam War. While the American servicemen were in the Central Highlands, the jungles and the deltas of South Vietnam, some protested the war. They had every right to do that, a right guaranteed by our U.S. Constitution, and that's servicemen who lost their life in those places. However, the burning and degrading of our flag, the insults hurled at returning servicemen, movie actresses visiting Hanoi and posing with communist gun crews, and activists marching to the UN requesting action against one's own government while ignoring the situation in communist-held countries in Eastern Europe, North Korea, and Tibet, was, in my view, a bit much. Moreover, politicians who could have told their supporters to protest the war, but not the servicemen involved, were silent. There was too much political hay to make. After our withdrawal from Vietnam, after the Paris peace talks, there was supposed to be peace, and a treaty was to be upheld. However, the communists within a year and a half overran the country. The protesters of the war who shouted, "Stop the bombing," were nowhere to be seen. They were also absent when the killing fields of Cambodia occurred, where some 2 million died at the hands of the Khmer Rouge, and the boat people exodus from Vietnam occurred. How did the Vietnam veterans react to all of this? Many returning veterans were ruined by the treatment given to them by their fellow citizens they received. Many needed help, support, and appreciation. They needed a leader. There is no doubt that President Ronald Reagan was involved in recognizing their service and extending appreciation for their sacrifices. During his address at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial on November 11, 1988, President Reagan recognized their efforts in service. Also, he helped, I believe, heal this nation from that difficult conflict. Let me quote the following from his speech. "I am not speaking here provocatively here. Unlike other wars of this century, of course, there were deep divisions about the wisdom and rightness of the Vietnam War. Both sides spoke with honesty and fervor. And what more can we ask from our democracy? And yet, after more than a decade of desperate boat people, after the killing fields of Cambodia, after all that's happened in that unhappy part of the world, who can doubt that the cause for which our men fought was just? It was, after all, however, imperfectly pursued, the cause of freedom, and they showed uncommon courage in its service. Perhaps at this late date, we can all agree that there's been one lesson learned, that young Americans must never again be sent to fight and die unless we are prepared to let them win." Later he stated, "Well, now as I approach the end of my service and I see Vietnam veterans take their rightful place among America's heroes, it appears to me that we have healed. And what more can I say to our Vietnam veterans but, welcome home." For these words, we have placed portions of President Reagan's Veterans Address on one of the plaques. In fact, it's on this one right here. These plaques will be placed next to their brothers in arms, the Korean War servicemen in the Appanoose County Courthouse. They need to be remembered. Let us hope for a world of peace and freedom so that there will not be a need for a family to suffer the loss of a loved one from war. Thanks for being here. Now I would like to introduce a U.S. Army veteran who served in the late 1950s as an infantryman in Europe as part of U.S. Army Europe. Our chairman, the Board of Supervisors, Dean Castro.
Good morning, everybody. Lights are bright up here. I realize, good job this morning. Band members, band director. Sounds great. I realize that Richard and Lisa most likely would not agree with me at this point in time, but however, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Lieutenant Colonel Kylie has gone above and beyond the call of duty in organizing this ceremony. He's unselfishly completed a valuable mission in addition to taking on a great bit of worry, I would say, to make sure everything goes right. And proper recognition should also be given to Lisa Owen, who is the Appanoose County Veterans Officer, and for helping prepare all these activities. I applaud her. I applaud her. And it is an honor for me, and I feel humbled actually to speak on behalf of citizens of Appanoose County while assisting in the properly honoring these warriors who have served our nation and have given the ultimate sacrifice that many have never been asked to give. And when we come here today to honor those who died, we must remember, too, those who were bereaved by the loss of those that we knew and loved. All of us, in some way, have been touched by the cruel necessities